Hi everyone. I would love to mention that my talk will be based on my own experience. It's not going to be theoretic. It's not going to be product of much research, but probably it's a product of my 20-year traveling around the world, meeting lots of investors. Quite often being in one calendar day in 3 countries in 2 continents, with a day being very, very long. So. I would love, before I start telling about current trends, I would love to mention a few words about how family office model emerged, and it will explain a lot what's going on and why we have what we have, because everything has a start. Present is a product of past and a good indication of the future. So according to Ernst Young Family Office Guide, the first family office emerged in 6th century. And as probably most of you guess, it emerged in US. Like all financial institutions, if you talk about private equity, if you talk about venture capital, if you talk about any models, any type of organizations in a private capital world, usually mother is United States. So if we move, fast forward to 1838, that's when formally family office was launched by JP Morgan. They launched it to run their own business, to invest assets, to invest wealth of their own family. Again, fast forward, if we move to end of 19th century, Rockefeller family created another type of family office, which is managing wealth of other people. So in Europe, Cambridge, in UK, that's where first family office in our continent emerged. However, for a very long time, family office was not that widespread. It was very popular among 1% richest people in the world. However, from 1970, we've got massive acceleration of family offices as institutions, as organizations that manage wealth of richest people in the world. Now, fast forward to 2015. So if we look at the time between 1970 and 2015, wealth of family offices went up 8-fold. This is a time also when family offices as institution moved from being geographically located, geographically focused on US, Europe, to Latin America, Asia, Middle East. From being very secretive in the nicest way or in a less nice way, they became much more open. So world changed. As we all know, technology changed life of each and every individual. Family offices, each family office is unique. Again, it's a very important point to understand that there is no such thing as a standard family office. Because a family office, by definition, is an extension of personality, of investor type, of family type, of a family whose wealth is managed. So how I ended up, I think it's also interesting factor, why family office? Why not fund? Why not working for Morgan Stanley, where I started my career in London? I think genetics matter. I'm born in Ukraine. Before Soviet Union emerged, my family had very big wealth. Sorry, I know it doesn't sound nice, but I only mention about, I don't want to boast about it, but I want to highlight one point, why people end in family office, even 70 years on a line. Like, I had a dream, American expression. I wanted to rebuild a family business. I didn't tell my parents. I only said to my mom, evening or one day, that I'm going to London at 8 o'clock in the morning So it was kind of a surprise. And I was working all the way through for 18 years. When I was at Morgan Stanley, all I was thinking about, one day I will have a family office. That's all that, captivated me, motivated me, made me work all-nighters, and I wasn't tired, and I was inspired, encouraged. I met tremendous people. So now to current trends. Family offices, again, also is a product of geography. As much as it's a product of family, equally it's a product of geography. It's a product of how family made money. It's a product of, are you successful, for example, in China or in modern day ex-Soviet country? Or on another hand, are you still in US? Or are you Middle Eastern guys? If I may spend a few minutes to give a snapshot how I see family office in each of these continents. So starting again with US, mother of family offices, or father or parents. By now, 25% of wealth run by family offices is still of US origin, 25%. By some statistics, 30%, 30. Family offices originated from US compared to family office originated from Europe, for example, much more risk open. They take risks. Why? Simple. Because US always take more risks. Whether it's venture capital, whether it's private equity, it's in their DNA. They talk bigger amounts, they don't mind to lose. In a business terms, very aggressive. They go where is money. Very business-minded, very commercial. And their desire is to generate wealth. So kind of priority is to generate, followed by preserve. On another hand, if we talk about UK, their priority has been to preserve capital versus to expand, to generate. They wouldn't take risks US will take. And then, for a very long time, when there was Berlin Wall, investments were made within West, combined US and Europe, not jumping over Berlin Wall. After Soviet Union collapsed, and again, it's conversations I had with very many UK-based family offices. They start making money in ex-Soviet Union, but they never advertise it. So it wasn't ever agenda, but they looked at the region, but again, were very cautious, very selective, very individual cases investments. And that's probably would be true to say the same about US and Europe. On another hand, if we look at LATAM region, so Latin America, they were kids, as they call it. Family offices of LATAM, family offices of Middle East and Asia, in terms of age, children of family offices of US and Europe, or even grandchildren, or even great-grandchildren. But when it comes to model, they are very different, because China, ex-Soviet Union, by simple math, are family offices of first, latest second generation, because simply we, everyone I guess know here in the room, You couldn't have family office when you had Soviet Union, right? And the same about China, So those guys are very dynamic. Again, while family offices of US, Europe, it's aristocrat. It's a very particular lifestyle. It's a very broad range of services family office offer, very broad, well beyond investment management. It's a very much extension of a lifestyle capability as investment, as a business. Asian, Latam, and Middle East, as we speak, still are very much in investment management activity. So it's not about like concierge services. It's not about much financial planning, inheritance tax like you would think, in US, in Europe, Western Europe. And as a factor of that, very different type of professionals work for family offices, which are traditionally US or Europe, versus family offices that represent Asia, Latam, and ex-Soviet Union. I don't mention Africa because from what, again, my research might suggest they have, but in my day-to-day conversations with very many players in the market, no one mentioned, having any family office in the continent of Africa. So potentially, they manage wealth, but structured somewhere in Europe, somewhere in US. Unlike, for example, family offices in China or Latam or Middle East, that could be also in legal terms based at home. So again, trends, if I may give another perspective. Like any type of investor, and again, now I will be talking about family offices exclusively as investor. So I put aside other bits, what they do, because we're limited in time. Usually, they would be very informal compared to private equity and venture capital guys. For example, for the audience here, which typically on entrepreneur side, it's growth, startup, scale-ups, growth companies. Family offices could be very good investor because not every business can achieve its maximum, its optimal performance by keeping investors' money for specific 5-7 years that usually venture capital, private equity guys demand. So, for example, if you raise money from private equity guys, venture capital guys, then you are almost limited in your maneuver because you have that horizon 5-7 years, and GP has to return money to LP. So it's kind of, you always have to walk within a corridor when GP tell you versus you tell GP. So it's, on another hand, when you build good relationship with family offices and manage to get that capital, you also get not just money, not just expertise if you pick insightfully, but freedom. For a freedom-loving person, I think that's the best you can get, because with freedom you can create the best company. Priority is different. But, again, when I say but, every player in the market has its place, has its role. And the very next trend that I've been seeing pretty much recently, really kind of since in making, when family offices raise their own funds and they commit certain money through a family office model, which means you guys can keep it as long as you need. And another bit, it's a well-structured, proper private equity VC fund, which means, guys, please return money when it has to be returned. For a very long time, again, from my observations, not always talking, because talking is one thing, how you collect intelligence, but another thing, observing. You can just get so much wisdom by actively observing in a nice way dynamics within family office. But you know, before, I remember when we were talking about, at the time when I still didn't have family office, when I was investment banker, I did approach family offices, and I remember they were saying to me, look, we have our structures, like, you could just sense guys don't need move beyond their comfort zone. They felt very comfortable that they would be making money, no matter what, you know. Technology changed things. Globalization, the way it is, changed things. Pandemic changed things. They understood they are not anymore immune. They understood that guys, you know, who are competing for the same great opportunity can actually make family wealth less because they can. And as a factor of that, as an extension of that, Western and European in particular, because US guys have always been, in my observation, active guys. European, London in particular, Mayfair in particular, it's a very closed club community. To get in meaningful way, it means participating in club deals, you know, transacting, getting access to, you know, off-market, quality, genuine deals was almost mission impossible if you are not born there, if you do not have Western accent, if you didn't graduate from Eton as a child and, you know, later on from Oxford, Cambridge, and all mega, you know, business schools. But now I could see that, forgive me being that direct, but I like straight language. That arrogance gone. Because I define it as arrogance. When you think, you know, you are immune, when you think, you know, the best, when you think that only these guys will create, you can't open pool for contrarian people. And what I mean by contrarian means sound not like you, background not like yours, but yet, together, you can become much more resilient in an ever-changing world. Technology will change family office a lot. They invest in technology now much more. They take much higher risks, realistically. They partner with people, with companies, with founders, that I can tell you for certain, 5 years, it wasn't the case. Now, enough of US, Europe, because we're limited in time. Nuances, geographical nuances of family offices as a model. In LATAM, unlike in any other region, very big focus on family offices ensuring security of a family. So it's, I think again, it's a factor of history of dynamic of, you know, probably some sort of mafia, I guess. When you are too wealthy, you can just be probably easily killed. Although we can be killed everywhere these days. When it comes to China, macro new initiatives introduced by Chinese government recently made family offices in a particular sectors very vulnerable, like education. So again, in China, you have to watch very, very closely how government will react. You have to be very good strategist at the macro policy, macroeconomics, because you can invest today and this money can be lost, essentially, and you can never get it back from state. Middle East, in my view, in my observation, is still the most secretive community, the most difficult to get in realistic terms. You know, even now, I'm invited a lot, but I know it will be nice talk, nice dinner, and you know, I wish you good luck. In a nice way, because there is also a factor you are a woman. It always helps to work with reality. I hear and I see my time is ticking up. So I hope I gave you enough food for thought. Any questions, feel free to reach out, and I will reply to the best of my capacity.
A couple of minutes for the Q&A session, so go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Natalia, for an interesting presentation. Do you see among global, on the global family office stage, the phenomenon that is very much present in Poland, that the first generation family offices want very much to manage their investments. They want to, they don't really like to have their money managed, so they want to take decisions in what to invest, when to exit, what happens with the company. They would like to be like very entrepreneurial and very active investors, not type of sort of venture passive investors. Do you see it everywhere, or is it a Polish phenomenon?
Thank you for the question. It's not a Polish phenomenon, but it's equally not a universal case. I think it's, again, a very logical extension of history, of legacy, of generation number, as I call it. You know, I live in London 18 years. Professionally, I am a product of that system, but historically, geographically, genetically, I am a product of Ukraine, and I will always be till my last day. So I also like Polish. I am not like London. However, if we talk about London, if we talk about, you know, US, it also becomes a point of amount of capital you manage. It's also about culture in which you work, ecosystem in which you work. When we are fifth generation family, uninterrupted by, hopefully, if you know, fairness prevail, Russia, if we don't have recreation of US, of USSR, apologies, if China doesn't screw, you know, private capital activities in China, and we have consistent passing of wealth from generation 1 to 2 to 3 to 5. So in UK now, many family offices is a fifth generation. When we are fifth generation in our part of the world, we will be like London. But we need to have macro like London, we need to have civilized behavior of big neighbors in our region, because they affect us. You know, when we think about safety, we don't think about business, right? If I have to move my family office, hypothetically, from Poland, further down to west of Europe, or even further down, like, you know, immigration did, and I think human psychology is a very good example how we think also in business terms. We want to move even further to US. Yeah? Then, you know, if we don't have these shocks, macro shocks, political shocks, societal shocks, will be the same. You know, people will manage and they get tired. It's another thing, tiredness. Another thing is when you have children who don't want to deal with it. You know, entrepreneur who created, he worked so hard. His heart or her heart or their heart was there. But then kids had luxury lifestyle, no blame. Everyone different, everyone has different talent, but they hate that business. You know, time and time again I hear the stories in London, for example, as well. When they can't pass to, when fathers say, could you please run this business? You know, you can scale up. And son say, you know what, with all my love to you, Dad, I don't want it. So what you do, you know, no, it's not a choice. You have to outsource investment management, and that's, you know, when you get all these things. I like to say things are simple in life. We humans complicate, and things are very logical in life, either. Everything has, you know, I believe in organic movement in anything. Like we are kids, we become adults, we become old, and then we die. It's the same about company, the same about trends. You know, we're very global, but kind of, we can't jump over. If I answered your question.
Any other questions? Seems like not.
And we need to be, if I may add, although it's a session about family office, any investor type, any business person, success is a product, in my experience, of you have to be strong, you have to be resilient, you have to be knowledgeable, and you have to remain positive no matter what. Because negativity kills everything, enthusiasm and ultimately business. So strengths, like even if, you know, quite often in London also, again, I comment about London because that's where I meet most people and very often. Perception is, you know, lots of guys who are from key family offices in London. It's all about, you know, lifestyle. It's all about aristocracy, sitting in private clubs, enjoyment restaurants, you know, yachts, traveling. Some of them, and actually many of them, especially their great parents, grandparents, they were exceptionally hardworking people, super resilient, but first and foremost, thick skin. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Natalia. Wonderful presentation. Thank you for the engaging in the conversation as well. And I'm happy